of our arches. These beans have really made a comeback. This is a late planting, and they are just putting out everywhere. We have to search for them high and low. All the blooms. If it ever cools off, they'll really like that, at least until the frost. And then duck under. Some more. A lemon cucumber. There's some more lemon cucumbers. They're still doing well. Jeff doesn't like those, but I do. There's some more beans. More beans. And actually, we had a volunteer yellow pear tomato plant come up. And so we've been picking free tomatoes off of it for a while. And then down in this bed, same bed, I dug up some beans that weren't doing that well and planted. This is spinach coming up for a fall crop. I need to thin it. Some more. It's Bloomsdale. There's my little rock sign. Bloomsdale spinach. And then some lacinato kale. They're not as big. And these are bean leaves I just need to pick up that fall down from the plant. That's our ant controller. And these are turnips. Golden turnips. And this is another variety. Purple top turnips. This is the first year that I've really been persistent about planting fall crops. So I've worked really hard to get these in the ground. We still got tomatoes on a couple plants, so I was letting them ripen. I cut all of the extra foliage off so it would send the energy to the tomatoes so I could make the most of them before I pull them up. This is a salad bowl mix of lettuce. This is Endive. They're slow growers. I've never grown Endive before, but they're just little guys. And this is Kale in the back row. And this is some more of the golden turnips. And these are Daikon Radishes. Here's my rock. That's a parsley plant that's been growing. I harvested off of it, but it's grown back a little. This is an example of what our squash has basically done all summer, except for just a couple of wee squash, but not off of these pitiful looking plants. And that's some red leaf sorrel. It's still going strong. And some onions we haven't pulled up yet. In this bed, I planted carrots. My husband had thrown some chives in, which we didn't need because we have this huge plant, but he likes to he gardens haphazardly. That's his way. And that's an okra plant that was uncovered when I dug up some of the other stuff that was in here. But these black nebula carrots only came up a little bit. A lot of bare spots in this one, so I will be replanting this today. This is the squash plants that have actually produced something this year. You can see it's got a couple of little ones on there. Some of the ones that they've tried to produce have rotted, and some of them have made into a squash and not rotted. It's a huge marigold. There's something about this square couple of feet of soil, because this huge marigold is in this right beside this our gigantic okra plant that's still making okra. I picked, I think, 5 or 6 off of it just today, and it's got so many branches that are making okra. It's all blurry. Very impressive. I don't know what it was in that soil, but I'm glad for it. All of these other okra plants comparatively are little squirts. And this is what we've picked so far today. I went ahead and picked the squash because I was afraid it would rot. Where are you, little guy? There's my little squash. This is a kale bed, scarlet kale. And it didn't come up marvelously. Looks like I'm going to have to go back and fill in these gaps too. Probably because of the heat, I had to guess. This is a row of high intensity lettuce. You don't thin it. And this are beets. That's an onion that's still in there. Some beets, Detroit dark red. This bed is the bed that we cover all winter. So my goal is to plant as much lettuce in this bed as possible. I still have a couple of tomato plants that still have a couple of tomatoes on it that need to ripen. But I've been working around them and still planting. This is a row of tango lettuce too, high intensity. And I think the row behind it too. This little row right there. That grass looking stuff is called minutina. You can cut it and put it in your salads. It's growing back because something really enjoyed it this summer and almost ate it down to the ground. There's another okra plant that was uncovered when I started thinning stuff out. This parsley I've got hanging in my kitchen has really grown back nicely. I might be able to do another harvest before it even gets cold. It is kind of cold hardy, so with it being covered, it should do fine. And then this sorrel, it is so prolific that I'm going to pull probably 2/3 of it out and replace it with greens of some kind. And see my little fork that I have labeled Napa Cabbage, and that's how far you're supposed to thin them after they grow. That's if they grow, which I've really been having a hard time. We've never been successful at growing cabbages. I don't know what we do wrong, but I have 1, 2 left, and I've planted like 10 seeds. This bed I'm working on today, it's a really long bed. There's some beans down there that was a late planting, and they haven't started making beans yet. They're blooming, getting several blooms on them, so hopefully we'll get a nice crop of these in before the first frost. But that's my catnip I've already harvested out of. And then in the front here, all down the front of this row is different things. This is Swiss chard. I'll have to thin out once the plants are just a little bigger. And then this is Endive. I've never grown it. And I think this is called shungiku or something like that. It's an edible chrysanthemum. Also never grown it, but I'm looking forward to trying it. You're supposed to stir fry it because it's a little bitter like most fall greens are. But in the back here, it'll be the first year I've tried a cover crop. And I've already got the seeds broadcast like it says you're supposed to do. And then I'll water them in. So that should be interesting. You just let them grow until spring. And you chop them. And then you dig them down into the soil. It improves your soil. This is our perennial bed. Perennial flowers. And I've cut them all down, except for that one. And this is an annual marigold. But in between these rows, I've put 2 more rows of the high intensity lettuce. Here's the other one. Just starting to come up. We still have our grow bags. There's some okra. This one's finally flowering out. Looks like that one will be soon. There's another one. And then in these 3 we have carrots. Jeff planted these bags and I thinned them for him. And then there's another bag of okra. This is my herbal bed, but I've planted some other things in here as well. That's the second planting of Malabar spinach. We've learned that not only can you eat it raw, it tastes really good stir-fried in oil, and I spray a little liquid aminos on it, which is the healthier version of soy sauce. And then in the front, here's carrots. I've already thinned these. That's my bee balm that came back a little bit from trimming it down. Lamb's ear. And then these little seedlings is sorrel. 2 little rows of that. I like to fill in, and been trying to make really good use of all the space in my garden. Haven't quite mastered it perfectly, but I'm getting better at it. This is Feverfew. It's an herb. It'll come back. My nasturtiums still hanging in there. And when I do stir fries, I'll cut some of these nasturtium leaves. And if we have any flowers like that one that still look fresh, I cut them and stick them in there too. Both edible. And I also cut this violet and put it in there. This is another one of our fall plantings. Sparkler white tip radishes. Never grown them, so be interesting to try. There, once again, is the basil. That stunk. I was a failure at basil this year too. And then, see the gouges that the squirrels dig out as you share your garden with the wildlife around you. My yarrow. And this, I have 2 zinnias that have just come up out of nowhere. I have one in this bed and then one in another bed. But I'm glad for it because it's one of my favorite flowers. That's my Asiatic lily that quit blooming. There's our plantain. And I know that looks like a weed, but I planted it on purpose. That's our dandelion. Very medicinal. And the sage isn't looking too good. I hope it comes back next year. I did harvest it, so I got something out of it. This is a late planting of okra. We like okra. We stir fry it. We don't ever just eat it raw or baked. I like it very crispy in small pieces. And that is another 2 little rows of the lettuce. I was determined to have lots of lettuce this fall. And this is the back side of one of our arches. Those are long beans. You can see growing. There's one. It's one of the noodle beans. They're Asian. They're very prolific. And the flowers are so pretty. There's another of the sorry basil plants. These are cherry bell radishes. Another marigold. And this is 2 rows of chard. Pink Swiss chard. I really like my rocks. I don't know how well this marker will hold up on them through the weather, but if I stay on top of it, I can just go back over it as it starts to fade. But I don't have to buy labels, which makes me very happy. More radishes. These are black Spanish. Here's an okra plant that's been doing pretty well. You can see a few on there. This is my compost bucket that I carry around the garden as I'm cleaning out things. There's the pack of carrots I'm going to fill in that bed with. And these scissors we bought at Lowe's. It's getting too sunny out here. It was a 2-pack, and they are very sharp. I highly recommend these scissors. I use them to cut the produce off so I don't damage the vines. But this is our other arch. You can hear my husband cutting wood in the background. This leads to our deck, which goes up into our house. And it has yellow pear tomatoes, which we've gotten so many of. I love these guys. I highly recommend planting these. They have a really good flavor. Not too sweet, not too tomatoey. It's kind of perfectly in between. I've already picked, oh, there's some cucumbers. This is our late planting. They're doing really well. I'm up high. I'm This is up in the air. You can see the sky. There's one growing on the top. And then, let's see. There's a red noodle bean. There's some hanging down. This cucumber we're leaving on for seed. This big guy. There's some more. This is our old planting of Malabar spinach. It's gone to seed. You can see the pods there. Definitely something we're going to do next year. One of our favorite crops. I don't see any of the green noodle beans. I must have picked them all, and the rest of them. There's one. Nope, that's just a stick. Never mind. Surely there's one green noodle bean here. Could be wrong, but here's the flowers. Aren't they pretty? That will be a green noodle bean in a few days. Here's my tower. Kind of petering out. My petunias aren't really doing very much. The grass is still pretty. We pinch off this chocolate mint, put it in our water. Around the back, they're still alive. Yeah. I have some pea plants. They can grow up on this fence when they get bigger. It's my artemisia. It's fallen over, so you can see the stems, which isn't quite as pretty, but it's still pretty. Here's our strawberry bed. Still nice and green. No strawberries, of course. And our grapes don't really look all that good, but they're alive, so that's something. This was our first year. We haven't gotten any grapes off of them. I absolutely love this toothache plant. If you chew a leaf, it literally makes your mouth buzz. So it is helpful for toothaches. And these flowers on it remind me of, like, I don't know, a Wizard of Oz or Lollipop in Wonderland show. I put some peas in this petunia barrel, and they're going to grow up on my deck here. I have twine across there for them to grow up on this fall. This is our asparagus bed, but all along the edges I've planted either radishes or kale or lettuce. I just had to replant along this edge, so there's not really a lot coming up. But you can see the radishes on this side. And then this little bed here is 2 rows of the high intensity lettuce, and then radishes on either side of the lettuce. This area is more shaded. You can see I have trees all around. So these are plants that flourish more in the partial shade. That's our lemon cypress. And that's our plantain lily. And that's our elephant ear. So here's a little spot of tango lettuce. And then there's some spinach, a couple rows, and some carrots on that side, all along that edge. This is the hill where the dogs run down to get the ball. This will all be covered with something eventually. I've started a walkway on part of it. It just got too hot to work on it. So we live on a rock. Did I ever mention that? A big rock with lots of rocks in between the big rock. This is still in the shaded area. Guess what? More lettuce. This lettuce is happier than the other lettuce because it doesn't have this hot sun that won't go away beating down on it. This is my perennial herb bed on this side with my lemon balm, some more parsley, my Greek oregano, and that thyme is not doing well, but it's not dead. And there is lettuce. There's Tiberius. Hi, Tiberius. Hi, Tiberius. I love you. Ugh, please don't knock me over. And there's Ellie. Hi, Ellie. You gonna go find your ball? Yeah? Well, go find it. So basically that's it, guys. That's my garden, mid-September 2019. I'll update you probably 3 or 4 weeks as my fall crops grow. And I hope you guys have a good day.